Yo, how many of you know about nutrition? Are you counting your macros? Are you on a keto diet? How long is your fasting window? If you already know the answers to all these questions and you just want to hear my thoughts on control, well then here's where that review starts. But if it sounded like I was talking a different language, well then my name is Franco and today's video is for you. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach nutrition. There isn't just one way that works for everybody. If you have questions about any of this, you can drop a comment down below, or you can swing by the stream. I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, and lately on Saturdays I've been doing an early stream so that people in the EU can come and hang out and chill. I'm also going to be doing another giveaway in this video, so stick around if you want to learn how to enter that. The basics start with calories. How many should you be eating? There's a lot of equations that you can use to figure that out, but honestly it's confusing. You could just use a calculator. In fact, I'm gonna link a calculator to figure out how many calories you should be eating in the description below. At the very basic level, losing or gaining weight is all about calories in or calories out. If you wanna gain weight or lose weight, you're gonna have to eat more or less than you burn in a day. And if that's all you care about, then you could just eat until you hit your calorie limit and you'll be mostly successful. But if you wanna hit that calorie limit while also maintaining a balanced diet, well, then you're gonna have to track your macronutrients or macros, and those macros are going to be protein, carbs, and fat. When you look at the label for anything that you eat, you're gonna find the amounts of those 3 macronutrients. And at the end of the day, if you tracked your calories correctly, you can see what percentage of those calories that you ate came from protein, carbs, and fat. That's gonna look something like this. And with this example, that means that 40% of our calories came from protein, 40% came from carbs, and then 20% came from fat. Protein is gonna help you build muscle, carbs is gonna give you energy, and fat actually gives you energy as well, just in a different way. So then the next natural question is, what should you eat to get these macros? Foods high in lean protein tend to be things like chicken breast, fish, turkey, and the others that are listed on the screen now. Carbs come in many different forms, but some of the best are gonna be things like rice, beans, bread, and oats. When you think of fat, you might automatically think that it's all bad, and that's not true. Avocado, oils, nuts, different forms of cheese, these are all fantastic forms of fat. Now here's the thing, while these are ideal forms of these nutrients, I don't want you to think that your meals have to be perfect. In fact, that's one of the ways that people get really discouraged. Changing your diet drastically overnight can lead you straight to failure. And sure, chicken breast with broccoli and brown rice, that's a really healthy meal, but finding foods that you enjoy that fit within your macros is going to help you stick to this new diet change that you're trying to make. Sometimes it isn't about eating healthy all the time, but that you know just how much of an unhealthy food that you can eat before you start reaching your calorie limit and your macro limits. So if you reach the end of the day and you have space in your calorie and macro budget, then eat a cookie. Calories and macros are still individual pieces. You put them together to form a diet, and that's what we're gonna talk about next. The word diet has a lot of negative feelings attached to it, and that's because usually it's used to describe some sort of faddish way of eating that people don't really stick to. So let's change that. When I say diet, all I mean is a way to combine your macros and your calorie limit into some sort of guideline on what you should be eating every day. This is also gonna be where your personal preference comes into play. You should be picking a diet based off of the kinds of foods that you like to eat. When I first started counting macros, I stuck to a 40-40-20 split. This is an example of a mostly well-balanced diet, but you could also follow some of the popular diets that are out there if it sounds like something that you would do well with. For me personally, it is much easier for me to give up carbs than it is fat. I can say no to some bread, but I love my bacon. So for a long time, I ate a keto diet. Now a keto diet is gonna be very low in carbs, it's gonna have a lot of fat, and there's gonna be a moderate amount of protein. I stick to a max of 20 grams of carbs a day, and trust me, that is not a lot. It ends up being a 34-66 split of protein, carbs, and fat. I'm not saying that it's for everybody, but I lost a ton of weight when I ate this way, and I'm talking about it a little bit more because it's the one that I have the most experience with. So if you have any questions about keto, let me know in the comments and I'll try and answer as much as I can. There are a lot of other types of diets. I'm just gonna give you some basic information about some of the more popular ones, and if it sounds like something that you would enjoy, I'm gonna leave some links in the description below and you can follow up on that. Paleo consists of eating the same way that a caveman would have eaten. So you're gonna have a lot of meats, fruits, veggies, and nuts. You're gonna stay away from high carb foods and processed foods. Now, I've done this before, and to be honest, I didn't really like it very much because it was a little too much work. work for me. If you have a moral objection to eating meat, well then you probably don't need me to tell you about vegetarianism or veganism. But there are some people that are sensitive to meat and they may not know it. So if you think that you're getting a lot of stomach aches from eating meat, try cutting it out of your diet and see if you feel any better. Intermittent fasting isn't so much of a diet as much as it is when you eat. And this is another thing that I have a lot of experience with. A lot of people do intermittent fasting to lose weight, but after doing it for so long myself, I can say that it does that as well as increase your focus and simplify your eating habits. I really enjoy not being tied down to standard eating times, and the idea is very simple. Don't eat. There are a lot of cycles that you can go by, like 16-8 or 12-12. Personally, I do 16-8, which means that I don't eat for 16 hours and then I eat in an 8-hour window. Usually this just means that I skip breakfast and I eat an early dinner. Alternate day fasting means that you eat every other day, and one meal a day is exactly what it sounds like. Regardless of which cycle that you choose or what type of intermittent fasting that you do, I can tell you that the first week is the absolute hardest, but after you pass that first week, it gets considerably easier and you don't feel as hungry during those fasting windows. Now, when you are fasting, I would say stick to just water or black coffee. Even if you find something that has 0 calories, just stick to those two. When you do eat during your eating windows, I would say don't overeat. You're still gonna stick to your macro and calorie limits. Let me pause the information right here just to give you some personal advice. When you start a diet, everyone around you becomes the food police. And it's like you can't eat anything without someone poking their head in and saying, are you supposed to be eating that? Or is that in your diet? Or I didn't think you can eat X, Y, and Z. I think that it's best to do it privately for a little while until you start to see some results. That way, when you do tell someone and they have some sort of reason why you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, you can just show them results and tell them to mind their own business. Remember, you're not changing this for anyone else but yourself, and you don't owe an explanation to anyone, and you don't need to stick by someone else's standards. Do what makes you happy and do it for you. Okay, I know that's a lot of information and you might be asking yourself how you're gonna keep track of all this. You have calories and macros and fasting, and it can be a lot. Now you could write it all in a journal, or you could just use an app. I would just use an app. For regular food tracking, I recommend either Lose It or MyFitnessPal. But if you're on a low carb diet like keto or something like that, I would actually recommend Carb Manager. And if you want an app to track your fast, well then I really recommend Zero. These apps make everything a lot easier and it gives you a visual for it all, but you have to log everything. Now be honest with yourself. Even if you have just a tiny bit of something, log it. You'd be surprised how those tiny things start to add up throughout the day, and before you know it, you've had way more than you thought you have. These apps make it easy to track your progress, and that is really important. In fact, I have a few tips for you along the way that didn't really fit in the previous sections. Cheat days. You need them, you just don't need so many of them. When I'm trying to stick to a diet, I'll actually go an entire month without breaking my diet at all. I stay 100% dedicated. And then at the end of that month, I'll take a weekend to just eat whatever I want, and it really helps to satisfy some of those cravings that you have during the month. Take before and after photos, even though it feels weird, and trust me, that scale can lie. You can do a lot of great work, and the scale doesn't really show that much of a weight loss or weight gain, but when you compare yourself to your beginning photos, you'd be amazed at some of the changes that you just don't notice. Make this as easy as possible for yourself so you have no excuse not to do it. Plan out your meals and go to the grocery store and buy the foods that you should be eating, and when you get home, toss out the foods that you shouldn't be eating, because if they're around and you don't have the right foods, you're just gonna go for them and it's gonna be hard to avoid it because it's convenient. Which brings me to control. Now, I've covered a lot of drinks on this channel, but nothing like this one. This drink doesn't give you energy and it doesn't improve your focus. It's a meal replacement drink that comes in 3 different flavors modeled after popular cereal. I said to make it as easy as possible for yourself, and it does not get easier than Control. You take some powder, you mix it with some water or milk, and you have a drink that's a full meal with all sorts of vitamins and minerals. The macro split is 23 grams of protein, 33 grams of carbs, and 6 grams of fat. Broken down into percentages, that's a 33, 47, 19 split. That's a pretty balanced split of macro macronutrients, and it would fit in nicely with that 40-40-20 split that I recommended earlier. I wouldn't recommend it for low carb diets because it has 33 grams of carbs, and even with 5 grams of fiber, that still leaves you with 28 grams of net carbs. The drink also uses maltodextrin, which I wouldn't recommend for anyone who's on a keto diet or anyone who's diabetic. It also uses artificial sweeteners, but it's not completely sugar-free. There's 6 grams of sugar in it, and that's because they actually use small bits of cereal for texture and for flavor, and I really do enjoy that. But because of that small bit of cereal, the drink also has some artificial coloring, but it's just limited to that cereal, not the entire powder itself. Normally I would recommend against things that have sugar, but 6 grams really isn't that much. That's like the same as a stick of gum. And that artificial coloring only being limited to the bits of cereal make me a little more comfortable with it than I would be with some of the energy drinks that I've reviewed before. If you want to hear more about maltodextrin and artificial sweeteners and all of this stuff, you should check out the energy drink videos that I've made, part 1 and part 2. Control has started to recommend their drinks to gamers, and they've even partnered with FaZe, and I actually think this is a really good thing. Now, ideally, we would always be making well-balanced meals in the kitchen, but life is not always ideal, and sometimes I don't feel like doing that or I don't have the time. So it's really convenient to be able to just mix some powder with some milk or water and drink it while I'm at the desk or on the couch. This is a meal replacement, and it definitely fills you up. When I mix it with 16 ounces of milk, I struggled to finish it because it was so filling, and you should think about this when you look at the price. It's $60 per container, and it comes with 20 servings. That means that each serving is $3. I don't know where you're eating, but usually my lunch costs me more than $3, and it's not always as well balanced as this drink is. If we were talking about an energy drink, I would say that $3 per serving is way too expensive, but this isn't an energy drink. This is a meal replacement, and so I don't feel as bad spending that much on something like this. The drink comes in 3 different flavors: Cinnamon Toast, Fruity Flakes, and Cocoa Crunch. I had an opportunity to try them all, and this is what I thought about them. Cocoa Crunch has a light chocolatey flavor, and it isn't overly sweet. It's pleasant, but didn't pack as much punch as the other two. In water, I thought it was okay, but I much preferred it in milk. This and all the other flavors taste like the milk at the end of a bowl of cereal, and they got that flavor spot on. Normally, I really like chocolate flavors, and I did like this. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't my favorite of the 3. Fruity Flakes was my second favorite flavor in milk, but my first favorite flavor when mixed with water. And let me just say, I usually really dislike protein powder style drinks when mixed in water, as in, I hate it, and I won't drink it. I really dreaded the fact that I had to test these drinks in water because I thought that they were gonna taste so bad, but to my surprise, they actually taste really good in water. I wouldn't say that they're as good as when they're mixed with milk, but the water is still totally doable. The texture is a little bit thinner when you mix it with water, and that artificial sweetener taste is a little bit more pronounced, but you're not gonna struggle to finish this if you mix it with water. This flavor was a little bit more fruity, as you'd probably imagine, and that helped balance with the sweetness. Overall, I think it's a fantastic flavor. My number 1 flavor in milk and number 2 in water is Cinnamon Toast. The cinnamon adds a bit more spice to the sweetness, and it's not as jarring as the fruit flavor from Fruity Flakes. It feels redundant to keep saying it, but if you've ever had the brands of cereal that these flavors are based off of, well then you know exactly what these taste like because they nailed those flavors spot on. I'm actually really impressed with that. I even had my wife try these, and she's someone who hates pretty much every gaming energy drink that I've ever had her try. Usually I kind of force her to try these things so I can get someone else's opinion other than just my own, and she dislikes all of them. She's never finished a single serving of any gaming energy drink because she's really sensitive to that artificial sweetener taste. But with this drink, I basically had to pry it out of her hands because she liked it so much. She loved all of these flavors, but Cinnamon Toast was her favorite. Now, I will say, I know I said Cinnamon Toast is 1 and Fruity Flakes is 2, but sometimes they kind of go back and forth. I really like both of them a lot. Overall, I really enjoy Control, and if you can swing the price, I would totally recommend it to someone who's looking for an easy to manage meal on the go or something that they can easily drink at their desk or on the couch. On the surface, it seems a bit expensive, but you have to look at it like you're getting 20 meals for $60, and that's not bad at all. I'd recommend getting a starter kit first. That way you can see if you like the product and which flavor you prefer. But because the people at Control are so awesome, they're going to be giving away 3 starter kits for this video. The starter kit is going to come with a shaker cup and a sample of each of the 3 flavors, and you can enter the giveaway with the link below, and it's going to go on for for the next 48 hours after this video is posted. If your luck sucks and you don't end up winning the giveaway, or if you watch this video after the giveaway ends, they're also going to be offering 10% off if you use the code Fracno. If you learned something in this video, then like and subscribe, because it's kind of my whole thing. I really like teaching you stuff. Until next time, peace!